Welcome, builders. So today we're going to be talking about NuGet Packages. So what is NuGet? Well, it's a platform in .NET to both publish and consume compiled .NET libraries. So in the past, if you wanted to have something in your project that would create images or make web requests or work with serializing and deserializing JSON objects, well, you can always roll your own, or you can go find a library online. With NuGet, it centralizes all of that into one database which can be searched and also maintained. So when you add a NuGet package to your project, you're going to get the compiled DLLs as well as a packages XML file. This XML file is going to maintain the versioning. The versioning ensures that you're using the same version of those compiled DLLs throughout your project, as well as if you check your code in, you're not having to check in those compiled third-party libraries. You're simply checking in a reference to the NuGet package, and then you can download that exact version to rebuild on maybe another machine or a colleague's computer. And then, since you have the NuGet package referenced in your project, if there's an update, you can always easily check for updates, or if there's maybe a version conflict where they introduce a new version but that doesn't necessarily work with your code, you can easily roll back to previous versions. So in the end, it makes working with third-party libraries easier to find and easier to maintain. So we're going to hop over to Visual Studio, create a dummy project, and pull in a NuGet package. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we are in Visual Studio, and I'm just going to create a new simple project. Just a little Windows Forms app. Okay, so let's imagine with our project, we need to have some sort of way to work with JSON objects, specifically serializing and deserializing these objects. A good example of this might be making web requests. So if I need to send data to an API, I have to serialize that data, basically taking it from an object in memory to making it a string representation where I can send that data to the API. And then coming back, if the API sends me back a response in JSON format, I can then take that string of data, convert it to an object that I can then work with in my code. So you can always roll your own and make your own JSON library, or we can use NuGet to add that functionality to our project. So let's take a look. So with our new project, I'm going to go into NuGet Package Manager, manage NuGet Packages for solution. And by default, it shows the installed NuGet packages. In this case, I created a simple Windows Forms app, so there aren't any pre-installed NuGet packages. So I'm going to go to Browse, and we're looking for Newtonsoft. It's actually one of the first ones to pop up. We're going to select newtonsoft.json. I can then see that this is the 13.0.1 version, which is the latest. And now it's going to ask me what projects I want to add it to. So we want to put it in the Windows Forms app. And now we can look at the different versions that are available. For example, if we were working with another library and it said it requires Newtonsoft 10.0.2, well, in that case, I know I need this specific version of Newtonsoft in my project in order to ensure compatibility. Now, for the most part, we won't have conflicts, and I always try to use the latest, most stable build. So we're going to install latest stable, which is 13.0.1. Click install. Okay. And there it is. Okay. So now we need an object that we can actually work with. So I'm going to go in to create a new class. Let's create up our models folder. Models. I'm going to add a class, and let's go with our student example. So student make this a public class, and it's going to have first name, last name, and let's also add a student ID. So public GUID ID get sent. So a student object in our case has an ID, a first name, and a last name. So now we're going to create two buttons on this app. One to serialize that object, and then one to deserialize that same object. So I'm going to need two buttons. Okay, so now I've got a serialize and a deserialize button. So I'm going to double click to go to the on-click event to start. So we're going to be serializing the object, which means we're going to take it from an object in memory and then convert that into a string, which we can send that data to a service. Like I said, we can persist that data. But for this example, we're mostly just concerned with the use of the Newtonsoft NuGet package that we pulled down. Okay, so I'm going to say var student equals new student, and I'm going to give him an ID, which is a NuGet, a first name. This is Fred, and a last name Smith. Now, as a part of our Newtonsoft.json NuGet package that we pulled down, I can now use, it's called JSON convert, and we can see this is using the Newtonsoft.json library. So if I do a control dot, it's going to ask if I want to add the using statement for Newtonsoft.json. I add that, now I can see it turned it blue, and I can do a serialize object. We're going to pass in our student, and this returns a string. So if I say var JSON equals, and then if I were to do, let's say, a message box of this JSON, let's take a look. Okay, so we've got our app pulled up. If we click serialize, we can see this is the string representation of the student object we just created. So this has been serialized by our NuGet package. Okay, let's go back to the code. Now we're going to create the deserialized version. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run this one more time, and I'm going to capture this string so that I can reuse it. Okay, so I've got our serialized JSON string copied, so I'm going to create a new variable, JSON equals, there's our string. Now I'm going to be using that same JSON convert object, but I'm going to be using the deserialize object. It's asking for a type, so we're going to, if I can spell, student, and then pass in our JSON. Now this is going to be set equal to a student object since we're deserializing it. And now I can do like a message box dot show. Let's show the ID, which will be student.id, and then their name. So that would be two strings here. We'll do student.firstname and then student.lastname. And run. Okay, so now if we deserialize, we can see we get ID, and that's our GUID, and for Fred Smith. So now that we're back in Visual Studio, I want to show you one more thing. So before we looked at the package manager, where it's a visual representation, where you can go in, run a search, and visually see everything that's available. You can also use a console-based version of that. So if I go to Tools, NuGet Package Manager, the NuGet Package Manager console. If we go here, now it's just a console awaiting input. But what you can do is, I'm going to pull up my browser. So I'm on NuGet.org, and I can do something like search JSON. And of course, the first library that comes up is Newtonsoft. I can click this here, and the first thing it gives me is this package manager install. So I can copy this. This is the console command to install this library. So if I were to go back to Visual Studio, so I'm going to go back into Manage NuGet Packages, and I'm going to uninstall. So confirm, yes. So now it's gone. So now our application would no longer compile because the NuGet package is missing. So we can see it's not wanting to compile. But now we'll go back and use the console. I'm going to paste in and run it. And it's essentially doing the same thing it did through the visual package manager. Okay? And now we can run our application. All right, so today we mostly focused on consuming NuGet packages. As I said, NuGet packages can be used to both publish and consume. So when building an application, if there's a specific task that another developer has already built, since that's all it does, it's more focused and you can rely on that code such that you can build the bigger picture that is your application. And now it's time for everybody's favorite segment, homework. So for this, I just want you to go browse and see what NuGet packages are out there. You can either create a new project in Visual Studio and go to Package Manager, or you can go to NuGet.org and take a look. There's over 300,000 NuGet packages available. So literally you can find whatever you're looking for. Browse the NuGet packages, find something you like, and then create a sample project that leverages that NuGet package. Once you're done and you're happy with it, go ahead and check it into Git. Go into GitHub, create the repo, get it checked in, tag us on Twitter @BuildSharper. We'll give you props and we'll give you a retweet, or if you're having trouble, you can reach out to us on Twitter as well. That's it for now. We'll see you later.